Well, good evening. Welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, Pastor Michelle. Tonight is Friday night and it is party time. Let's go out and party. No, we are in a pandemic, right? And so let's stay in and not. And we can do the Elaine dance. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Seinfeld lately, so I just watched that episode with Elaine dancing, and she's like the thumbs up, and then she does the little kicks. Oh my gosh, Seinfeld's a great show, but that's not what we're here for tonight. We are here for to hear about a Bible character, and we're here to hear about and hear a Disney story. So let's start with the Bible character. We're moving into a new section of this book, and so this is part 2, and this is the most influential figures in ancient Israel. And so this is actually a picture of the Church of the Redeemer in Jerusalem, with the Dome of the Rock in the background. I believe that's the Dome of the Rock. It's on my bucket list to go to Jerusalem, by the way. It would be an amazing trip. So the epic saga of Israel's monarchy, from the entry into the Promised Land to the capture of Jerusalem by the Neo-Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BCE, is the subject of the Bible's collection known as the Nevi'im, or Books of the Prophets. With these books, which also appear, though in a different order, in the Christian Old Testament, we enter into a period that is increasingly attested by archaeological discovery. The story takes us from the Israelite settlement in Canaan to the subsequent history of the monarchies of Israel and Judah. The first 2 books, known as Joshua and Judges, tell the story of the Israelite conquest. Archaeological discoveries, however, suggest a more gradual infiltration of Canaan. The books of Samuel and Kings continue with the unification of the tribes under one king, culminating in the glorious reigns of David and Solomon. But as soon as Solomon rested in his tomb, his storied empire disintegrated along tribal fault lines, thus weakened the warring monarchies of the north and the south of Israel and Judah, were easy prey for the growing aggression from Assyria. The books of the prophets, including Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 minor prophets, argue that the fall of these monarchies was due to the Hebrew proclivity for pagan cults. It was Israel's misfortune, perhaps, to be placed at the crossroads of the great caravan routes of antiquity, which brought exotic and sensuous cultic practices. Economically exhausted, torn by internecine strife, the Jewish kingdom succumbed to the superpower in the east, ending in the era of the Babylonian captivity. So tonight, our first story, our character to study tonight, is Joshua. And so this is a picture of a sword from an Achaean type sword from the early Iron Age. So there's a sword. And then this is British artist John Martin painted Joshua commanding the sun to stand still. And so there's that picture. And there's Joshua right there. So Joshua is the principal protagonist of the story of the Great Settlement. His name, which means God saves, summarizes the message of the book of Joshua. The choice of Joshua reflects Moses' realization that the new Israelite leader had to be a military commander rather than a figure of spiritual charisma. Only then could the Israelites defeat their opponents. A member of the Ephraim tribe, Joshua first caught Moses' eye during the battle against the Amalekites at the great oasis at Rephidim, which brought him a promotion as Moses' assistant or servant. Not assistant to office. He acquitted himself well during the journey to Mount Sinai and formed part of the reconnaissance team that entered Canaan by stealth, reporting that the land flows with milk and honey, but its cities were stoutly defended. To make matters worse, the access road to Canaan was straddled by Jericho, an ancient city renowned for its massive walls. For 6 days, Joshua and his troops marched around the walls of the city, carrying the Ark of the Covenant, while priests blasted away on their horns. On the 7th day, the priests gave one last and shattering blast, while the Israelites screamed at the top of their lungs. The walls collapsed, the Israelite warriors rushed in, and virtually all of Jericho was burned to the ground. Next, Joshua focused his conquest on the hill country, knowing that the deep and lush valleys beyond the Judean hills would be fiercely defended. He used a ruse to capture the city of Ai tentatively identified with Kirbat Atoll, some 12 miles north of Jerusalem, and left it a heap of ruins. This feat caught the attention of the Canaanites. The king of Jerusalem, Adonizedek, rallied the forces from all the principal cities in the area, including Lachish and Hebron. According to the Bible, his army was routed in the valley of Ajalon after God came to Joshua's aid by battering the enemy with stones from heaven. Now the foothills lay wide open, so Joshua took the townships of Azekah, Makkedah, Libnah, Lachish, Eglon, Hebron, and Debir. The Hebrew commander then swung north where King Jabin of Hazor had also created a defensive coalition, this time consisting of northern kingdoms and Canaan. Joshua was able to defeat the northern alliance, however, and burn Hazor to the ground with the fire. Once most of the Canaanite kingdoms were pacified, at least for the time being, Joshua devoted himself to dividing the newly conquered lands among the 12 tribes, including the hill country and all the Negeb, as far as Belgad in the valley of Lebanon below Mount Hermon. The division was made by drawing lots. As Joshua lay on his deathbed, he received a pledge from all the tribes that they would continue to honor God and the law rather than any of the native Canaanite deities. And then the great warrior died at age 110 and was buried in the town given to him, Timnath Serah, close to Shechem. And so, according to the Bible, the 12 tribes of Israel were founded by the sons and grandsons of Jacob. They were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Joseph did not found a tribe directly, but his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, did. Each of these tribes, including many clans and families, would develop a unique cultural identity, yet still retain a sense of kinship with others and their allegiance to God and his law. So here's a picture that Rembrandt painted, Jacob blessing the sons of Joseph. So you can kind of see it. And then above, the Neolithic Tower of Ancient Jericho was first built around 7000 BCE. And there's a picture of it right there. So there you have it, Joshua. I've always liked that name, Joshua. And so tomorrow we will learn about a woman, Deborah. And so let's hear, I'm sorry. Hey again. All right, so let's hear about, let's get back into our Disney stories. And so our story tonight comes from A Bug's Life, and it's called The Flying Blueberries. And I love blueberries. It's a good fruit. It's the one fruit I really like to eat. I need to eat more fruit. So here we go. And eating fruit, by the way, sometimes my definition of eating fruit is drinking a strawberry shake. Not the best definition. So the flying blueberries. Everyone in the ant colony was in a good mood. The grasshoppers had driven off once and for all, and none of the ants had even been hurt. But Flick's amazing fake bird had taken quite a beating, and the blueberries were determined to fix it. Fixing that bird is a big job, said Mr. Soil, Dot's teacher, but I know the blueberries can do it. The blueberries stared at the fake bird, and it was one big mess. I'll be back in a little while to see how you're doing, said Mr. Soil. With a cheer, the blueberries went to work. Some picked new leaves to cover the frame. Others glued those leaves into place with sticky honey. After hours of hard work, the bird was fixed. Let's sit in it, Dot said. Just as the blueberries crawled inside the bird, the wind began to blow. Suddenly, the breeze caught the fake wings. The bird took off. It was up to Dot to save the day. She hopped into the pilot seat and took control. The blueberries flew around Ant Island more than once, more than twice. Soon they weren't afraid anymore. Look, screamed Rose. Real birds are attacking the worker ants. Dot jiggled the controls. The fake bird dove out of the sky and frightened the real birds away. Hooray, yelled the blueberries. You did it, Dot. Don't cheer yet, Dot cried. This contraption is out of control. With a bump and a crash, the bird hit the ground and skidded to a halt. It's wrecked again, said Rose, and here comes Mr. Soil. He's going to be so mad. But surprisingly, Mr. Soil was smiling. You're heroes, he told them. You saved the worker ants. But the bird is wrecked again, said Rose. And you can fix it again, too, Mr. Soil replied. And here's a merit badge for you, Princess, in honor of your first flight. Mr. Soil continued. Dot was confused. I've already made my first flight, she said, fluttering her tiny wings. But this is a special badge, Mr. Soil replied. It's for making your first flight not using your wings, but using your head. So let's all continue to use our heads. But I do hope you have a good night and sleep well.